In this tutorial, you are going to learn how to rig a mech. You will learn how to build a rig from scratch. You will learn how to place the rig inside of the mech. You will learn how to set up inverse kinematics on a 3-jointed leg. You will learn how to set up an advanced ankle rig. You will learn how to set up an action constraint. You will learn how to make as well as use custom shapes to make your rig easier to animate. As you work your way through this tutorial is taught in a step-by-step fashion. I try to not explain what I'm doing, but why I'm doing what I'm doing. I plan to use YouTube's new chapter feature to make this tutorial easier to navigate. Thanks for taking the time to look at this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy it. Hi, this is Ali Arango of Little Guy CGI. Today I'm going to show you how to rig a mech in Blender 2.83.1. So let's get started. Okay, the setup you see in front of you, typically what I do as far as maneuvering, help myself maneuver, is I go to View, then I go to 3D Navigation. To see this little 3D navigation setup, you need to go to the upper left of the screen, go to Edit, User Preferences, Add-ons, the top add-on, put a check mark next to 3D Navigation. When I say add-on, this is something that is built into the default version of Blender. You just need to put a check mark there to have it show up here. Okay, what you're looking at is a mech that I showed how to make in another tutorial. I'll put a link up so that you can get to that tutorial. We are also currently in what's called perspective view. If you look to the upper left, you can see this user perspective. This is showing the view that we're in. What we want to do is go to a front orthographic view. Orthographic view is kind of like a blueprint view. It is a view that shows 3D objects as if they were almost in 2D. So I'm going to go to the right and then select front. So now we're in front orthographic view. Also, when you look to the left, you can see the upper left front orthographic view. Okay, if you're watching this video and you're totally new to 3D, what rigging is rigging is a way of putting in what are called armature bones that allow you to take a mesh like you see in front of you and then to be able to fairly easily animate that mesh. There's different ways of animating meshes. Rigging is, as far as I know, the most effective way to animate a mesh. There's other things that you can use sometimes, like motion capture, things like that. But generally, if you want to animate a mesh, you would use rigging, which is pretty much the process of putting in a rig made of armature bones and then animating those bones. Okay, and starting this process off, one of the important things is you want to have the 3D cursor in the center of your scene. Here's the 3D cursor here. I'm going to purposely move it to the side. So I'm going to hold Shift, press right. So now the 3D cursor is here, right? I want to move the 3D cursor so it's back to the center of the screen. So I'm going to hold Shift, then press C. When I did that, now the 3D cursor is back in the middle of the scene. Okay, what we're about to do is bring in our armature. So I'm going to hold Shift, press A. This opens up our Add To menu. What we're going to do is go down in this list, go to Armature, and then we're going to Single Bone. If by the way, you see those different things underneath my mouse, those are dealing with the Rigify add-on that comes with Blender. We're not going to be using those options. However, if you are interested in like what those options are, you would go to Edit, User Preferences, Add-ons. You would look down in the list, and then you would put a check mark next to Rigify. We're just going to, for this tutorial, we just need the single bone. So I'm going to left click on the single bone. Okay, we brought our armature bone in. However, we can't see the bone. If you look to the upper right, you can see our collections display here. See this at the bottom here where we see the armature here. So the armature is currently selected. We just can't see it. So to be able to see, we need to go down to, looks like a square. This is our object properties panel. We want to go down to where we see viewport display. We're going to select the arrow there. And then we're going to see this option that says in front. You're going to left click there. Once you left click there, now you can see the armature bone. Okay, so since we can see our armature bone, what we want to do is move this armature bone down to about the hips area. To do that, we're going to look to the upper left of our screen. We're going to go to the move tool to select that. We're also going to go to the upper right of our screen. What I'm looking at is these items. So the armature bone, currently all of the properties for the armature bone are zeroed out, with the exception of scale where you can see 1, 1, 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this armature bone down to about here. So when I did that, we're currently in object mode. It's very important when you're rigging to be aware of which mode you're in as you work in rigging. So this previously was 0. Now this says, negative 4.2187. It would be better for us to have this. I'm going to push this down slightly more. Actually, I'm looking at this right here, so I'm going to move this up. I'm looking at the line right here going into the leg, so that should be good there. We want this to be zeroed out, so what we can do is that's the location, right? So the rotation is the same, 0, 0, 0. The scale was 1, 1, 1. This has changed. What we can do to make this be zeroed out is we're going to hold Control, press A, and then we see this apply menu. We want to select location. So when we did that, you can see that now this is zeroed out again. Issues can happen if when you move something in object mode, if you don't have your location as well, your rotation zeroed out. So with that being said, we're going to go to the upper left. Then we're going to go to edit mode. So here in edit mode, what we would want to do is I'm going to zoom in. This is the tail of the bone. This is the head of the bone. Look, when I think about this, it looks like it should be opposite to me. However, as far as I understand it, that's the official way that things are explained as far as armature bones. What we want to do is snap this tail to the head, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the head, and then I'm going to hold Shift, press S. This brings up our Snap To menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cursor to selected. So I have the 3D cursor right there on the head of the bone. So I'm going to select this bone now, and then with that bone selected, I'm going to hold Shift, press S. This brings up our Snap To menu, and then what I'm going to choose is selection to cursor, keep offset. So now what it looks like is it looks like our armature bone has disappeared. It didn't. The reason why we did this is when you're rigging, you want to be very careful about which direction your bones are facing, as well as the roll. So I want the bone to come straight forward. So that's why I snapped. So it's still there. It's just the way it is. It doesn't look like it's there. So what we're going to do is go back to our move tool, and then we're going to select the move tool, and we're going to push straight out. So now we can see our armature bone again. Okay, this bone that we made right here, this first bone, its main function for now is going to be our handle. So I selected the bone. I'm going to pull this bone back. I'm going to go to View, so I can see these options to change the view right here. I'm going to go to right. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is this is going to be a handle. The bones that go into the leg are going to come from here, as well as the bones that go into the spine. So I'm going to rotate slightly. Okay, so here we can see, so we need to have this push forward somewhat like that. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to select here, pull this back like that. So this is going to control the main core of our mech. This is basically going to be a handle. So what we want to do now is left click here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start extruding our bones. So we're currently in edit mode. It's very important when you're rigging to know which mode you're in. So with this tail selected, I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. So then I'm going to just extrude over like this. I'm going to select front. So I'm just looking at the center of the mass right here is what I'm looking at right now. Okay, we want to press extrude again. So I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, and then bring this down to the knee area. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. So I'm looking around. So it's easier to adjust the bones when you're going like straight up and down as well as forward as well as back. So I'm going to move this up some. So I'm going to push this like this. Okay, I can see from the side here the leg, so I'm going to just make this leg line up better. So what I'm doing is I'm rotating in 3D space to get a decent view at how we have the bones currently set up. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to turn to the side. Actually, I'm going to go to the lower right of the screen to select right. I'm going to select this bone. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. I'm going to pull this bone straight back using the manipulator, then push this down using the manipulator. As I'm working with this, I'm thinking of this being like the thigh bone, here this being like the shin bone, this being like a very long ankle bone. So I'm rolling the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. I'm going to push this down like this, then move this bone forward. I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to take a look to see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to go back to right view. I want extra flexibility right here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press E to extrude, then right click. I'm going to push this down like that. Push it forward some like that. Okay, looking at the bones here, I want there to be a handle to be able to control the foot. So I'm going to select here. I'm then going to press E to extrude, right click. I'm then going to use the manipulator to pull this bone out, which is going to be a handle that we use to manipulate this area right here on our mech. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. As we work our way through the rigging process, the way you want to think is you want to look at the pieces of your mesh and then decide which bone is going to control which area. So we have this area here towards the front, this area towards the back. So we're going to make one bone come out here and then one bone go out to control the back part of this mesh. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper right, select hand and pan, hold them in the mouse button, rotate. I'm going to select that part of the bone. Then what I'm going to do is press E to extrude, right click. I'm going to take the manipulator and then push this bone straight forward like that. I'm going to select that piece of the bone again. I'm going to press the E button to extrude and then or E key to extrude, right click to deselect. Then I'm going to pull a bone out for the back as well. So now I'm rotating the view, trying to see how the bones are placed. Okay, so I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. So often when you see me rotating, I'm rotating so I can see how everything is placed as far as 3D space. What we're going to do now is I'm going to roll the mouse button to zoom in. I left clicked right here on the tail of the bone. So what I'm going to do is press E to extrude, right click, and I'm going to bring that bone up. Okay, so this bone here is going to control this base piece right here. I'm going to push this here because I'm going to have another bone that goes up. So I have this bone leaning forward so it matches up with this bone here. Okay, as I'm looking at the bone here, I'm thinking, do I want to have a bone just for this piece? I don't think that I do, because I'm thinking that this bone will control here. This bone also can control this. I don't think this is I'm gonna have this moving. So with that being the case, I'm going to have this bone go up to here. So I have the tail of the bone here. Even more. So the plan is to have another bone come out. The other bone that comes out will control the area of the mech that is above this area here. When setting up your bones, one of the things I recommend for you to do is to, like, the thing you could be tempted to do is, like, every piece that you see have a bone match up for that piece, right? I would recommend you avoid that, because the more bones that you have can actually make things easier for you when it comes time to animate your character. So that being said, when I look at this, one part of my mind is like, look, you can make a bone that goes, out to here, and then to here, and then to here. That's not necessary. So what we're going to do is we're going to press E to extrude. We're going to right click. Then we're going to bring this bone out like this, right? And pretty much the thinking here is we're taking this bone, we're ignoring this right here. Like this bone here. No, sorry. This bone right here is going to control most of this. This bone right here is being set up so I can control this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this bone back. So now I'm moving in 3D space to see if that's correct. Let's go to top view. So this bone is setting up to have another bone come out that's going to control this piece of the mesh right here. Okay, so I'm going to pull this more towards the center. So with this done, I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, and I'm going to push this bone out here like that. Okay, when we extruded this bone out, the bone is rolled to the side, which we need to deal with. Let's go to front view. From front view, we can see that the bone is not set on the correct height. So what we'll do is we'll select the main part of the bone. We'll go back to front view. We selected the main part of the bone rather than just this, so that the whole bone will raise up. Front view again. So I'm just using the front view to position this. I can select here, move this up. It's not totally necessary. Okay, so this bone is rolled. So if you're like, what do you mean rolled? See how this bone here is straight? Like if you look at the bone, you can see there's no roll. So when I say roll, if you look at my mouse, that's what I mean by like roll. Like if the bone is actually turned like this is, right? So how do you deal with that? Well, you look to the lower right. You can see like where we can select this button right here. We can work with. This gives us different options to work with our bones. We want to go to viewport display. We see all these different options here. We want to select axes, right? So I'm going to go to the upper right, go to the hand. So when I zoom in here, see this tail of the bone here? See how this X is going straight up, this Y is going straight out, the Z. This is a bone. This is how we want this bone to be. So when I select this bone, when we go to the upper right to items, see this roll is -90. So that's the roll. So this is the roll that we want right here. So when we select here, we can see this is -71. So I'll hold them in the mouse button and rotate. See how the x-axis is pointing to the side? So if I left click and drag to the side, you can see the bone rolling. So once we get up to about -90, now this bone, the roll is correct. As far as how the bone should be, as far as the axes, I found that the most important thing is that your bones are consistent with each other. So now the bone roll for this bone is consistent with the bone roll for this bone, and both of these bones are pointed in the same direction. So this is good for now. Just to be clear, when I say good for now, it should be good, period, as well. You know, that should be, this bone should be fine. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button and rotate, left click on nothingness to deselect, go to the hand, the pan. I'm going to select this tail of the bone here. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, take the manipulator to push this bone straight forward like that. So this bone is actually going to control most of the mass of the upper part of this mech. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm holding the middle mouse button to take a look. We have most of the bones that we need. I'm going to select here, press E to extrude, right click. I'm going to use this as the main handle for the leg bone. I also want to select here, hold shift, press S. This brings up our snap to menu. I'm then going to choose cursor to selected. I'm then going to hold shift, press A, which brought in another bone. I'll select the main body for that bone. I'll push this forward like this. This will help to control the bend of this bone, like how the bone, I'm trying to think of how to say it, rotates. It's used for positioning the leg. Okay, there is another bone that I would like, so I'm going to select here, hold shift, press D, right click, and then bring this bone up like this. I'm going to press S to scale this bone down some. The plan is to use this to control this part as well as this part of our mech. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, now that we have, as far as I know, the bones that we need, we want to name these bones. I'm going to go to the axes and turn that off. One of the important things about naming the bones is that when you are animating your, in this case, our mech, having the bones named allows you to use certain techniques in Blender, like flipping the pose, which tends to make things like setting up walk cycles very much easier than they would be without using techniques like flipping poses. Okay, now that we have our bones, we need to name our bones. The way that I name bones is I name them as if I was doing with a human body. Just because I know those general areas, I think they're also, you know, most of us know, like if you say a leg, like what you're talking about with the leg or chest. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this bone right here. You're going to go to the right. You're going to select what looks just like a bone. Once you select there, when you look to the upper right of this panel, you can see here's the name of this bone. Now this is a center a center bone, so this doesn't need a .L. That's going to become very important later. So like these bones that are on the left-hand side, we actually want these to be named .L. So this actually, I'm going to name this torsal. So I'll name this torsal, then press enter. So now that's its name, it being the bone. Okay, as we go through here, there's a chance we might eventually get rid of this bone as well as this bone. I'm going to add another bone. I'm going to select here. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, then bring this bone out like that. I'll left click to deselect. So we're going to go through and quickly name these bones. So we select here, this is named torsal. We'll select here. We'll name this shoulder.L, then press enter. We'll select here, we'll name this arm.L, then press enter. We'll select here, we'll name this lower okay. My brain is, we'll name this lower underscore torsal. Press enter to lock that in. We'll select here, we'll name this thigh.L, then press enter to lock that in. We'll select here. We'll name this shin. Up.L, then press enter to lock that in. We'll select here, we'll name this shin underscore down.L, then press enter to lock that in. We'll select here, we'll name this leg underscore handle.L, lock that in. We'll select here, we'll name this FT, short for foot, underscore handle.L, then press enter to lock that in. Okay, we'll select here, we'll name this ankle.L, then press enter to lock that in. Okay, we'll select here, we'll name this front T for front toe.L. We'll select this back piece, we'll name this back T for back toe.L, then press enter to lock that in. We'll select here, we're going to name this FT for foot underscore control. So I'm putting CTRL for control.L, then press enter to lock that in. Okay, let's select here. So this is torso. We'll select here. We'll name this mid torso. We'll select here. We'll name this lower. Okay, it's already named lower torso. Good. We'll name this main underscore handle. Press enter to lock that in. We'll name this, wait a second. Oh, I named the wrong thing. Okay. I did name the right. Okay, so this is, we'll name this hip.L. Press Enter to lock that in. Okay, starting from the top. Just held the middle mouse button to rotate. When I select this, this is named. 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 Going to the hand to pan up. So now we have this. So this is what's called a pull target. This helps to adjust the angle of the leg when you are setting up your character mesh for poses. So we're going to name this PT.L. PT standing for pull target. Okay, so now that we have our bones named, what we want to do is start setting up constraints to have the mech actually work. So we want to set up to have the mech so that it's easier to put into poses. When you are rigging, it's very important that you remember which mode you're in. You build your armature bones in edit mode. You parent or unparent in edit mode. When you put constraints on, you tend to do that in pose mode. Okay, the first thing we want to set up is inverse kinematics. What kinematics are basically, typically when you're dealing with kinematics, you're dealing with how limbs move. So inverse kinematics deal when you have an armature that pushes against the surface. So when you walk around, your foot pushes against the ground. So typically when you have something that pushes against a force, like the ground, you would use inverse kinematics. So when you're working with characters, typically your character's legs, you'll use inverse kinematics on them. Forward kinematics are when you have a limb move without it pushing on a force. So your arm, for instance, your hand is typically in the air. It's freely moving around, so you would use typically forward kinematics to rig a character's arm. Okay, and setting up these inverse kinematics, before we do that, we're actually going to select this bone here. We're going to press X to bring up our delete bone. We're going to delete that bone. We're going to use this bone here as our main handle bone for the leg. What we want to do is have this not be parented to the rest of the leg. So this bone needs to be cleared of being parented to this leg to work as a handle for the leg. So to do that, we're going to hold Alt, press P. This brings up our clear parent menu. Then we're going to select clear parent. So then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, when you're working in rigging, I'll say this again and again. It's important for you to know which mode you're in. The reason why I say it again and again is when I was first learning rigging, it was more difficult than it should have been because I would confuse which mode I was in. So you make your rig in edit mode, you set up constraints in pose mode, you also parent things as well as clear parents in edit mode. All right, so we're about to go to pose mode. All right, so we're gonna go to the upper left of the screen, and then we're going to go to pose mode. So here in pose mode, what we want to do is select on this bone that we just unparented. We're going to hold shift and then left click on this bone here. So I'm letting go of shift. What we're going to do now is hold shift and then press I. This brings up our add IK. That IK stands for inverse kinematics. We can see this says to active bone. That's what we want. So we're going to left click on that to active bone. Okay, so as you can see, the basic inverse kinematics are fairly easy to set up. However, see this line going from here to there? To have this work correctly, we need to have a proper bone chain. To get to the bone chain and see where it works, over to the lower right, we select on our bone constraints button. You'll see menu screen here that says, I guess we call it menu panel here, that says chain length. Typically when you're working on inverse kinematics, you'll set this to 2. We're going to set this to 2. So I'm hovering over the arrow. So I just set that chain length to 2. Okay, so if you're totally new to rigging, you might say, okay, that like what did that do? One of the big things it does is now when we select this main handle bone and I press G, you see how the rest of the armature goes down. So basically, to have your character bend down as well as walk, this is huge to be able to pull and then have the character bend down just from using this main bone. Now there is an issue. You can see, look at the foot there, how it's rotating around. We need to deal with that. So we're gonna left click to deselect. Okay, to deal with that is a fairly easy process. What we need to do is go to the upper left, go back to edit mode. Remember, we set up constraints in pose mode for bones. We set up parenting for bones in edit mode. So what we want to do is select this bone and then parent it to our handle bone. So we'll select the bone first that we want to be parented to another bone. We'll hold shift, select the bone last that we want it to be parented to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hold control, press P. We have this make parent menu pop up. Then we want to select keep offset. So I'm going to left click on keep offset. Okay, I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. So to be able to move our bones, we go back to pose mode. So we're going to the upper left, go into pose mode. I'm going to select this main bone. So now when I press G, you can see that that leg now is stable. That foot on the bottom there is stable. So I'm going to right click. Now what we also can do is select this main handle bone, press G, so we now can move this around as well. So I'm going to right click to get that to go back to its original position. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, one of the things with this leg setup is if this leg setup had basically two main parts to make up the leg, the way we have this set up is fine. However, there's three main parts. So when I select here and then press G to move the leg, when I move the leg, you'll notice this part of the leg does not move. So what we need to do is set this up so that this leg will work where this part of the bone, this part of the leg moves as well. Okay, this actually isn't that difficult to set up. I learned how to do this technique from a YouTube channel called Hyden. That's Hyden. So if you want to learn more about it, I recommend you go check out his channel. The way we're going to do this is we're going to add another IK to this bone right here. Before we do that, what we want to do is we want to have another handle coming out. So what we're going to do is we're going to, currently we're in pose mode. We're going to go to the upper left, left click, go to edit mode. I'm going to select the head of the bone right here. With this selected, I'm going to hold shift and press S. This brings up our snap to menu. I'm then going to select cursor to selected. So with the cursor here, the reason why we put the cursor here is because in Blender, where the 3D cursor is at, is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, so we're going to bring a bone right to here. So we're going to hold shift, press A. So when we press shift A, because we're in edit mode, working with bones, we automatically brought in an armature bone. So I'll zoom in so you can see this. I'll go to the upper right, go to the hand and pan up. So here is the bone that we brought in. We're currently selected on the tail of the bone. What we want to do now is have this tail of the bone go right to where that 3D cursor is at, right? So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to hold shift, press S to bring up our snap to menu again. And then what we're going to do is go to selection to cursor, keep offset. So when we did that, it looks like the bone disappeared. The bone didn't disappear. It's just totally snapped to this 3D cursor. That's good because we want the bone to go straight out from where the 3D cursor is at. So we'll take this manipulator and then just push straight out like that. Okay, so now with this bone set up, so this bone is, we brought the bone in, the bone isn't parented to anything, which is good. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect it, but actually I'm going to select the bone. Let's give the bone a name. We'll go to the lower right, select the, looks like a bone menu, and we're going to change the name of this bone. So we'll name this second ik.l. Yeah, that's I'm fine with that. Press enter. So now I'll left click to deselect. We're going to go to the upper left. We're now going to go to pose mode. So remember, when you work with rigging, it's very important to remember where you're at. That's why I'm repeating this numerous times. We make bones as far as like bring them into Blender. We parent bones in edit mode. We set up constraints in pose mode. So here we are in pose mode because we want to set up a new IK constraint. Okay, so what we want to do is first select this new bone that we brought in, hold shift, and then select this bone. This is the bone that we want to have the new IK on. So what we're going to do now is hold shift and then press I. This brings up our add IK menu. We're going to select to active bone. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to select this new IK bone. So it's not a new bone. It's a bone that has a new, it has an IK on it now. So what we want to do is we want to go to the lower right. We want to go to our bone constraints tab. We want to look to the chain length. We want to set this to 2. So with that set up, now we can select this bone to move the bottom part of the leg. We then can select this bone. This bone will select this as well as control this. However, what we want is we want to be able to select one bone that will control the entire leg, and that's what we're about to set up now. Okay, I'm going to zoom back by rolling the mouse button. I'm going to left click to deselect. So we're going to bring in yet another bone. So we're in pose mode. We want to bring in another bone. Where do we go to when we want to bring in another bone? We go to edit mode. So we're going to go to the upper left. Then we're going to go to edit mode. Okay, we're going to select this bone. The reason why we're selecting the tail of this bone is because we're just going to make room because the other bone's going to go right here. That's the plan anyway. So we're going to push this in some. So then we're going to select here. So with this tail of this bone selected, we're going to hold shift, press S, which brings up our snap to menu. We're then going to go to cursor to selected. So now the 3D cursor is right here. Why don't we put the 3D cursor there? Put the 3D cursor there because in Blender, wherever the 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, what we're going to do is hold shift and press A. So now we have this new bone. We have the tail selected. I'm going to use the manipulator to pull up just to make that tail bigger. So we're going to select this bone. We're going to go to the bottom right to give this bone a name. And what we're going to name this is main dot leg dot CTRL, standing for control dot L, then press enter to lock that in. Okay, the reason why we brought this bone in is this is going to control the other IK bones. So I'm going to left click to deselect. So first we're going to select this bone, which is the control for this bone that has an IK constraint on it. We're going to hold shift and then select this bone second. The order is important. I'm letting go of shift. Now I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm going to select keep offset. I'm then going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the second control that we have for the second IK constraint, which is on this bone. We're going to select this first, hold shift, select this second. I'm letting go of shift, and now I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. We're going to select keep offset. I'm then going to left click to deselect. Okay, now with those bones parented, we can go to the upper left to change from edit mode, which we're currently in, to pose mode. Okay, remember when we selected this control to move the leg before, this part of the leg moved as well as this part. This part was stationary. Now when we select this bone, then press G, you can see that the entire leg moves, and this is just what we want. And the reason why this is working is because this control that controls this, as well as this control that controls this, are both connected to here, to this main control bone. Like I said, I learned how to do that setup from the YouTube channel Hayden. I was very happy to find that out because I wasn't sure, how to get this to work. So this works very well. It's a nice, nice to have the leg set up work correctly. So when we select here, then we press G, we can see that this still works as it should as well. We also, if we need to, right click to get that to go back to the regular position. We still can select here and press G to move just this here. We also can select here, then press G to control from here. So when we control from here, you can see we don't have that top leg moving. When we select here and then press G, we have the top leg moving as well. So it gives us other options. So I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, another thing we want to have with this setup is we want to be able to easily control the angle. So we're currently in pose mode. We want to bring in another bone as a pole target. We have this one pole target here. So to bring in a bone, we're going to go to edit mode. What we're going to do is we're going to select here. There we go. Okay, with the 3D cursor there, we're going to hold shift, press S. This brings up our snap to menu. We're going to select cursor to selected. We're going to hold shift, press A. That let us bring in this bone here. We're going to pull this bone back. We're going to push this bone down. We're going to use this bone to help control the angle of this bone here. This bone right here, we're going to push that down. This is going to help control the angle of that bone. Let's give some more distance for those bones there. So when we select this bone, we already named this PT.L, right? So we'll select this bone. We're going to name this PT.B for back.L and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, what we need to do now is to set up these pull targets to work. So to do that, we need to go to our upper left. So we are now going into pose mode. So what we want to do is select the IK. Once we select the IK, what we're going to do is go to our bone constraints button, which takes us, we can see our bone constraints menu. This pull target right here, what you want to do is left click, right? Where this says armature, that's the generic name of the armature. The reason why this is important, and sometimes you'll have more than one armature. For now, we have one armature that is named armature, so we'll select armature. Okay, so since we have the armature selected, now Blender's like, okay, which bone do you want to work as a pull target? So we're going to select here, we're going to put in P. That shows us the bone that we want, which is pt.bl.l. So before this happens, I'm going to prepare you. I didn't click anything as far as selecting the bone yet. When I do select that bone, you're going to see the IK bone, change into a strange position. Are you prepared? Okay, here we go. So I selected the bones, and now this is the pull target. What we need to do to fix this is, you see this pull angle here? I'm going to change this to 180. Then press enter to lock that in. So now the pull angle has been adjusted, so this should work correctly. Okay, now we need to do the same thing for the other bone. So we're going to select this IK. We're selecting this IK because this pull target is set up to control this IK. So with this selected, we need to go to pull target, select the armature that's named armature. So then we're going to select here. We're going to press P. So we want this PT.L. So I selected that. So we didn't see the bone angle change in a strange way. The pull target is fine. If you did see the bone angle change in a strange way, you would go to pull angle to adjust that. Typically 90 or negative 90 or 180 or negative 180 seems to be the way that the pull target angle typically needs to be adjusted. Okay, the reason why we set up the pull targets is I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate to the left, or rotate, whatever. I'm going to select here, press J. See how I can have this slight angle change. Notice that when I change the angle, this bone here is left floating in the air. This should be fine since we're using the main control of this. Once you adjust the pull target, which the pull targets help a lot, is when it comes to getting the exact angles that you often need when you're animating. What you can do is press A to select everything, hold Alt, press R. I'm still holding Alt, then press G. And what that does is that resets your bones. When we select this pull target here, we press G, we can see that we have, again, the ability to change the angle. This tends to be very useful when you're animating. I'm going to press A to select everything, hold Alt, press R, I'm still holding Alt, then press G, just to make sure those bones are reset. I'm then going to left click to deselect. You should be aware that when it comes to setting up poses, sometimes you can press R to rotate on the Z axis. You can also change your angle just by selecting the actual IK. So I'm selecting the IK and I pressed R, then Z to rotate. It's nice to have the options. I like to have the pull targets. They seem to work best as far as adjusting the leg angle, particularly when it comes to rotating the bones. Okay, one thing I want you to take notice of, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate, I'm going to select here, press G. See how when I move the leg, the pull targets don't move? That's not good because you want to be able to move the leg and then have the pull targets in position to adjust the angle when you are setting up animations. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate. By the way, when I try to say like the shortcut keys that I say, I like saying them. I'm used to saying them. It's funny though. Sometimes like I'll try to say what I'm pressing, even as far as panning as well as rotation. Some comments people will say, you don't have to say that. Then other people will say, you try to say all of the shortcut keys, but you don't say it all the time. So anyway, that thought went through my mind when I rotated the screen. Anyway, what we need to do is we need to parent these pull targets to this bone. We're currently in pose mode. To parent bones, we need to go to edit mode. So we're going to go to the upper left to go to edit mode. Okay, to parent these bones, the order is important. First, I select the pull target, I hold shift, then I select the bone that I want it to be parented to. I let go of shift, and then hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu, and then select keep offset. I left click to deselect. I'm going to select the other pull target bone, hold shift, then select the bone that I want it to be parented to, which is this main leg control bone. Let go of shift, I hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm then going to select keep offset. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left to go to pose mode. So now when we select this bone here, when we press G, we can see that the pull targets move with the rest of the leg, which is very useful for when we animate. Okay, when you're working particularly with mechs, I find that it's very useful to have good control over the legs of the mech, particularly as well as the foot. So it's very useful to be able to bend your mech's leg forward while having the foot flex. This helps a lot with the animation of the mech. So we're going to set it up so that it's easy for us to bend the leg forward while having the foot of the mech animate. Okay, to set this up, we need to go back to edit mode. So we're going to left click to deselect. We're going to go to the upper left, then go to edit mode. We're going to need to bring in another bone. So we're going to, let's select here, hold shift, press S. This brings up our snap to menu. We're going to choose cursor to selected. We put our 3D cursor here because we want to bring in a new bone where the 3D cursor's at. In blenders where bones tend to come into Blender at. We're going to hold shift, press A. That brought in a new bone. Use the hand to pan up. So I want to have this bone go straight forward. So what I'm going to do is we have the tail of the bone selected. I'm about to snap it to the cursor there. So we're going to hold shift, press S, and then we're going to choose selection to cursor offset. So now it looks like the bone disappeared. We push the bone out like this. Push it out further. My manipulator's in the way, so I'm going to go to the select box just so I can select the whole bone. I'll go back to the move tool. This is going on towards the upper left. I'll push this bone down. I'm going to go to view, right view, so I can see the bone. So pretty much the way what I'm doing here is you want this bone to be, for the most part, where the bottom of the leg is hitting. All right, so this bone is like lined up towards the bottom of the foot. Doesn't have to be exact. So now that the bone is positioned, I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to left click to deselect. We need to parent this bone to here as well as this bone to here. Okay, so we're going to select this bone, hold shift, then select this bone second. I let go of shift. The order is important. I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm going to select keep offset. I'm then going to select this bone. I'm not holding shift. I'm now holding shift. I'm going to left click this bone. I'm letting go of shift. I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm going to select keep offset. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. We need to make things so that when we animate, this bone doesn't pull away from this bone. To do that, we're going to go to our upper left. We're then going to go to pose mode. Here in pose mode, first we're going to select this bone. We're going to hold shift, select this bone second. The order is important. I let go of shift. Now I'm going to hold shift control C. That made our add constraints with targets menu pop up. I'm going to hover over this copy selection. Once I press this, our bone's going to jump up. Prepare yourself. The bones jumped up. Now I want to go to the lower right, go to constraints, and then go to this head tail menu, and then select that and change that to 1. So now our bones are back to the position that they should be in. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to go to the upper left to go back to edit mode. Okay, here in edit mode, we want to select here, hold shift, then select here. I let go of shift. We're going to hold shift, press D. I move my mouse up just to make sure I duplicated those bones. I'm going to right click to get those bones to jump right back into their original position. Okay, so we have these two new bones. The two new bones are right on top of the old bones. It looks like we didn't do anything, but there's two new bones on top of the old bones. So what we're going to do is go to the bottom right, select this bone. I'm going to select here, ankle. My manipulator's in the way, so I'm going to go to this select box. I'm going to select here again. I'll select here. There we go. Blender tends to use .001. We have a duplicate of a bone. That's what we have here. We want the duplicate bone. So what we're going to do is select here. We're going to change this to ankle. .roll. .l, and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, now we want the same thing here. So when I select there we go. There's that .001. Okay, we're going to name this bone toe dot CTRL, standing for control, .L, and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to our upper left. We're going to go to pose mode. I'm going to select this bone here. The bone that I want is the ankle.roll.L bone. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis to rotate this up. I'm going to left click. The main reason I'm rotating this up is so I can see the difference between the new bones compared to the old bones. I have this copy location constraint on this bone. This is a result of this bone being a duplicate of this bone. However, I do not want the copy location constraint on the ankle.roll.L bone. So what I'm going to do is go to the constraint button towards the lower right of the screen. Then I'm going to select the X to take that constraint off. Now I'm going to select the this bone here. I'm going to go to the bone to the lower right. When I say bone, I mean the bone menu. I want the toe.control.L, which is what I have selected. What we want to do now is go to the upper left, go to edit mode. With that bone selected, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate. I'm going to hold shift and then left click on the bone underneath of it. I'm going to hold control, then press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm then going to select keep offset. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, we're going to go back to the upper left. We're going to go back to pose mode. We're going to select this bone, which is the ankle.roll.L bone. With that bone selected, we're going to go back to edit mode. The reason why we went to pose mode, just so we could know for sure that we were selecting the correct bone. With this bone selected, I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis 180, and then press enter to lock that rotation in. Okay, what we need to do is to parent this bone to this bone. So we're going to select this bone, hold shift, then select that bone. I'll let go of shift. I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm then going to select keep offset. I'm going to left click to deselect. Now we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go back to pose mode. I'm going to select. This should be fine when we reset the bones. Looks kind of strange there. What you want to do now is select this toe.control.L bone, which we currently have selected. You then want to hold shift and select this bone, which is the foot.L bone. The order is important. You're then going to hold shift, press I. This brings up your add IK menu. I'm about to click to active bone. When I click that, the bones are going to jump. So I'm going to left click, the bones jumped. Now what I want to do is I want to go to the constraint menu, set the chain length to 1, and then I want to take away this check mark next to use tail. Okay, with the bones still selected in the order that they were selected in, I'm going to hold shift, hold control, then press C. This brings up our add constraints with targets menu. I'm going to select copy rotation. Now with all of that done, I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we want to do now is press A to select everything. We're going to hold Alt. While holding Alt, press R. I'm still holding Alt. We're also going to press G. That just resets the position of all of our bones. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, one other thing we want to do is go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We're going to select this bone, hold shift, then select that bone. We're going to hold control, press P to bring up our make parent menu. We're then going to select keep offset. We're going to left click to deselect, go to our upper left, then go back to pose mode. Okay, now when we select here, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, hold the middle mouse button to rotate. When I press G, you can see the entire leg moves. I'm going to right click to get that bone to go back to its original position. When I press R to rotate on the x-axis, we can see the foot can angle forward as well as back. When we select here, I'm going to move the mouse. When you have the mouse here and you press R to rotate on the x-axis, you'll get like very strong movements. If you position your mouse back here before you press R to rotate on the x-axis, you'll have smoother rotation. So I'm going to press R to rotate on the x-axis here. So you can see that our leg can go forward while the foot stays in place of our mech, which is good. So I'm going to right click to deselect, then left click, or right click to get that to go back to its original position, then I left click to deselect. Typically I deselect by left clicking on nothingness. You should be aware that when you press Alt A, you can deselect just by using key presses. Okay, what we want to do now is give the foot the ability to flex. So when the leg lifts up, I would like for this part of the foot as well as this part of the foot to be able to flex kind of like towards the ground. So that's what we're about to do now. Okay, to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the upper middle part of our screen. We're going to select animation. The reason why we came here into the animation tab, and these tabs, by the way, are they are not necessary to do the work. Like, we're about to put some keyframes in for this constraint. However, these tabs help you to work. Okay, if you're wondering why there's no color, it's because we're in solid mode. I'll just select there. Okay, so we're going to use an action constraint to set up the movement that I just mentioned. So what we want to do is we're going to look towards our lower left. See this keying? We're going to left click here. Then we're going to look to where we see active keying set. We're going to select these keys. Basically what this is when we press I, we can automatically have keys put in for what you see here. So I want the location as well as the rotation put in for a bone when I press I. So I'm going to left click lock rot. So you can see active keying set now says lock rot. Okay, so the way this action constraint works is we need to do an animation, and then we actually use a bone to control that animation. Sometimes the animation that you set up could be a step-by-step animation. I've used action constraints in the past to have robots transform into vehicles, or you can also just have an animation be what we're going to do here, which is just the first frame being the foot unflexed, the second frame being the foot being flexed. If you're wondering why we would use something like an action constraint instead of just a type of rotation constraint, the reason why is we have a bunch of things set up already with rotations. So we're kind of using the action constraint to get around having to use a rotation constraint. Okay, to set up this action constraint, we're going to select right here, and I'm saying here instead of the bone because we need to have this be the toe.control.L bone, not the other bone. This bone is right on top of the other bone. I can see from here that we're selected on the toe.control.L bone, which is the bone that we want. So with that selected, I'm going to hold shift and then select this bone as well. I'm then going to make sure that my mouse is over top of this viewport. Your keyboard shortcuts in Blender are dependent on where your mouse is at. So with the mouse being here, as well as our active keying being set to lock rot, which stands for location rotation, we're going to press I. So when we did that, we have these keyframes now in our first frame on our timeline. Okay, what we want to do is move to frame 11. You can left click and drag along this top bar to move your timeline indicator to frame 11. That's where we want to go. If you look to the lower right, see this 1? You could select here, enter in 11 to go to frame 11 as well. I'm going to select the top. I'm left clicking and dragging to frame 11. I'm going to select here. When I select there, I have ft.l. I don't want that, so I'll select again in the same, looks like the same place. When you have two bones that are on top of each other, Blender will typically select one, then go to the other bone. So with that bone selected, I'm going to press R to rotate on the x-axis down like that. I'll left click to lock in. I'm going to select here, press R to rotate on the x-axis like that, left click to lock that in. Then I'm going to left click here. It's important that this is still, when I select again, Control L, I'm going to hold Shift, then select here. With those two bones selected, I'm going to press I to put a keyframe in on frame 11 for that pose. Okay, with that keyframe in, when I left click as well as drag back to frame 1, you can see that the there's the animation that we just made. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, press R to reset those bones. To set up this action constraint, what we're going to do is go to the lower left. We're currently looking at the dope sheet. You're going to select the arrow, then select Action Editor. In the Action Editor, the animation that we named by default is called the Armature Action. We're going to select here, change the name to Foot. I'm going to do capital F, Flex, then press Enter. So this is what this animation is now named. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this X. So you can see like the now we don't see the animation, right? However, we can select this arrow, and then if I selected this would give us the animation right back again. There is something I should point out. I'm going to select here, go back to this animation. The way that this is, there was a message that popped up that said, gave a warning. If you don't assign what's called a fake user to an action like you see here, sometimes you'll lose that action when you shut down Blender and open it up again. So I'm going to left click, looks like a shield on that fake user, so that we know that this action will stay. I'm then going to select the X button to get rid of that action. Again, when I say get rid of, I mean from what we're watching here, that action is still there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we want to select that toe.control. This is not it. So we'll select again. So now this is it, toe.control.L. So with that selected, what we want to do is select the constraints menu. This, we can see add bone constraint. We're going to select here. We're then going to select action. I've done action constraints in the past in Blender 2.8. Just seeing how it was in 2.8, I looked at a YouTube channel called Pixel Level. If you want to know more about setting up action constraints, the YouTube channel Pixel Level did an excellent job going over it. I recommend you go check out that YouTube channel if you want to know more about setting up action constraints. Okay, to set up the action constraint, we want to look to this action constraint menu. We want to select this button here. We're over to the right of the screen, mid-right of the screen. We're going to left-click, select our action, which is foot flex. I want this bone to, when we scale, to control this action. So I'm going to select here, then select Y scale. The world space you see right here, Pixel Level did a good job describing this. When you move a bone anywhere, that's world space. As far as like activating the bone, when you move like the whole armature, this would activate, right? To only have the action constraint activate when we move this particular bone, we need to set this to local space. So we select here, go to local space. The action range right here is the animation frames. I'm going to go to frame 1. This shouldn't matter as far as the action constraint. I just wanted to set this to frame 1, but this doesn't matter as far as the action constraint here. The action started on frame 1. I'm going to press enter to lock that in. It ends on frame 11. I'm going to put in frame 11. For this minimum, I'm going to set this to 1. For the maximum, I'm going to set this to 0.5 and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, so now we need to have tell Blender that this bone is the bone we want to control it. So this target is going to be looking for the total armature. So we'll select here, we'll select armature. Now we need to select this bone. So when we select here, go to this bone towards the middle lower right, we can see that this is foot_control.L bone, right? So we're going to select here back on that toe.control.L bone. We'll go back to the action constraint. So now for the bone, we'll select here. If you didn't see the bone, you could just put an F, but here's the bone right here. So we'll left click to select that bone. Okay, now with this set up, we should be able to select here, press S to scale. You can see that that first bone there is activating, which is what we want. So I'm going to right click to get this to go back to its original position. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we want to do is copy this constraint to this bone. We can do this fairly easily. First, we want to select this bone, hold shift, then select this bone. The order is important. Then we'll go to the upper part of the middle of the screen. We'll select pose. We'll go down to constraints. And then we're going to look to where we see copy constraints to selected bones. We'll left click. So now this bone has this same constraint. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect, roll the mouse to zoom back. I'm going to select this bone. So now when I press S to scale, you can see that those bones flex like I wanted them to flex. So I'll right click to get this bone to go back to its original scale. Okay, I'm going to select the hand to the upper right. So when we select this bone here, when we press G, we can see that we're able to move this leg around, right? We also can press R to rotate on the X axis to have the leg go like that. We also can select this bone, press R to rotate on the X axis to have the bone flex. When we flex the leg in, we can select this bone, press S to scale, so that we can flex the foot like that. So we'll right click, we'll press A to select everything, we'll hold Alt, press R, still holding Alt, then I'll press G. Then I'll left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the towards the upper left. We're going to go to layout. We're through the most of the bulk of setting up the rig. There are some more things we need to do. We're going to go to the upper left here in layout, then go to edit. It's very important that this bone here be named correctly. Currently, when I go to the bottom right to select bone, this is called bone. We're going to select here. We're going to name this BF for bottom foot dot CTRL dot L, and then press enter to lock that in. This is important because we're going to use symmetricize to copy this side of the rig over to the other side. This needs to be named correctly for that to work. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. We're going to select this bone here. We're going to name this LC.L, then press enter, short for left control.L. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to select the hand. This bone we're actually not going to need, so we're going to, with that bone selected, we're going to press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose delete. We're going to select this bone, right click, select subdivide. We're doing that so that we have this right here, the ability to move here. So I'm just pushing that down some. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to take the hand to pan. I want there to be a shoulder joint, so I'm going to select here, right click, select subdivide. I'm going to left click off, select here. I'm pulling this out to basically that shoulder joint that you see there. I'm moving in 3D space to make sure it's actually there, around that area. I'm going to left click to deselect. When you're setting up your rig, you want to have enough bones so that your rig can be maneuverable, so that it can move how you want it to move. However, you don't want to put in unnecessary bones that can make rigging more complicated. Okay, I said you don't want to put in bones that make rigging more complicated. I meant you don't want to put in more bones so that you make animating your rig more complicated. Okay, so this right here, we're going to select this bone. We're going to right click, select subdivide. Then we're going to go to the subdivide menu. We're going to take this up to 2. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, the reason why we separated this up is I find that it's useful to have the gun have some kind of reloading ability separate from the rest of the mech. So I'm going to push this up, that tail. I'm going to take the head, then make that closer to this section right here. This section right here we actually don't need, so with that selected, I'm going to press X to bring up the delete menu, then choose bones to delete. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I think we're done as far as the arms. We need to do something with the hips here, and what that is just trying to get a look at the hip. So we're going to select this here, hold shift, press D, pull to the side just so I know I have the duplicate. I'm going to right click. Then with that bone selected, I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis 180, and then press enter to lock that in. And then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, this bone right here, this was the original bone. We actually don't need this anymore, so we're going to select that, or we have it selected. We're going to press X to bring up the delete menu. Then we're going to choose bones to delete. Then what we want to do is we want to select this bone. So this is the main bone that makes the mech duck down. All of this is parented to this. We want to switch the parenting of this to this bone. The way we can do that is with this bone selected, we'll hold shift, select that bone, let go of shift. Then I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm then going to select keep offset. Now with that done, we'll select this bone. We don't need this bone anymore. We'll press X to bring up our delete menu and then choose bones to delete. I'll then left click to deselect. Okay, as far as the bones being divided, new bones coming in from being subdivided, or as well as being duplicated, those bones should be fine because their names, we already named them originally, so when they're subdivided or duplicated, they'll still keep their original names. They'll just have like additional numbers, but they should work as far as using our mech. Okay, what we want to do now is select this bone, go to pose mode. Here in pose mode, we're going to look for relations. So this is the bottom right. Looks like a regular bone button. We're going to select relations. We're going to scroll down. Then we have this inherit rotation on this bone. What we want to do is take away the check mark for that inherit rotation. I'll left click now to deselect. Okay, here in pose mode, when I select this bone now, then press G, you can see that this moves the body of the mech. For what we did with the work between these two bones now when we press R to rotate on the Y axis, we can adjust how the bottom part of the mech moves. So this is very nice for working particularly with mech animations. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to edit mode. We're going to zoom back so we can see our entire mesh. We have most of the rigging done. So what we're going to do is press A to select the entire rig. Then we're going to go up to the upper left, select armature, go down to symmetricize. Then we're going to left click on symmetricize. You can see that symmetricize duplicated this part of the rig over to the other side. We had all of the bones duplicated, even the center part of the bones. However, Blender was able to tell like this is what we wanted duplicated. Now this symmetricize menu that popped up, it says minus X to plus X. This typically this minus X to plus X works from whatever it was on this side is copied to the other side. If you for some reason had this side, or you didn't have like Blender knows when you have one side to do the other. However, if you made changes and you wanted to use symmetricize again, you could do them. However, to have how we have set up here where this side is copied to that side, you would select that arrow, you would go to have this be plus X to minus X would make this side be copied to that side. Where the minus X to plus X is this side copied to that side. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we want to do is make sure that the bones were copied over fine. If you have issues with symmetricize, most of the time it's probably going to be that one of your bones did not have a .L. Like if you followed along with the tutorial where you did this side, if you didn't have a .L, that probably would be your issue. There's also, if you have a name that is particularly long with, that might also be an issue you had. The bone that I changed here, actually because of, it seemed to give me issues when the name was different. When I shortened the name, like you saw me do, things were fine. So what we want to do is go to the upper left, go to pose mode, just to make sure that things are right. I'm going to go to the hand towards the upper right. We'll select here, press G. When I'm testing rigs, most of the time this is like one of the first things I do is to make sure like that basic part works. And then of course the legs, that works. That works. I want to make sure that this still works. Excellent. This is here as well. That little small bone. That works. Or to rotate on the x-axis when that works. Everything looks good. So I'll select everything, hold Alt, then press R, hold Alt, then press G. For this right here, this actually needs to be Alt S to reset the scale to get that back to its original position. I'll select this, hold Alt, press S just to make sure, then I'll left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually change our mesh some. This is going to allow us to have the ability to give you that gun reload movement that I talked about. So what we're going to do is go to the upper left. We're going to go to object mode. We're going to select this gun right here, right? Currently we're in global mode. When you look to the lower right of our screen, we can see this view global/local. When I select this, we see just this gun here. When you look to your upper left, you can see that this is the user perspective local. So if you are in a situation where you save Blender and you open it up and you only see one piece of your mesh, You might want to look to the upper left to check to see if you're in local mode. Anyway, here in local mode, we came here so we could make things easier to work. We're going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, we're going to go to edge select. We have vertex, edge, as well as face select up here to the top. What we're going to do is hold the Alt key. We're going to left click on this edge right here. We're about to rip this edge, which means we're about to separate this edge. Now what's important is which side that our mouse is on. If our mouse is on this side, we don't want it on this side because it will make this edge be connected to this part of the mesh. We want the edge to be connected to this part of the mesh because we want to take this edge and then slide it in, and that's going to allow us to have the ability to kind of like make this part go in as well as out, like it's doing some kind of reloading action. So with my mouse on this side, I'm going to press V. Then I'm going to right click to get that ripped geometry back to its original, or to stay in its original position. I'm going to go to the upper left. We have wireframe, solid view, we have viewport shading as well as rendered. Here is this other view that we have called X-ray view. So when I select this, we're going to be able to see inside of our mesh. So this is useful because we have this edge selected. I want to pull this edge in. So I'm going to first hold control, and then I'm going to left click and drag. So there's one, there's two. Now I let go of left click. I held control so I could have these snapping movements. So I would be easily able to do this to the other gun to have basically the same distance for the inside. So we're going to left click to deselect. We're going to go back to the upper right, turn off that X-ray mode. We're going to go back to the upper left, go back to object mode. Then we're going to go to the lower right, select view global / local to go back to global view. Okay, we're going to do now is pretty much a repeat. We're going to select the gun on this side, go to the lower right of our screen, select view global / local. We're going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode, make sure we're on edge select, which we are. That's in the top left of our screen. We're going to hold Alt. We're going to left click on this edge, let go of Alt. We're going to press, make sure our mouse is on this side. We're going to press V, right click. We're going to go to the upper right. We're going to turn on X-ray so we can see what's going on. We're going to hold control, left click and drag once, and then a second time, let go of left click, let go of control, left click to deselect, go to the upper right, turn off the X-ray, go to the upper left, go back to object mode, go to our lower right, select view global / local, and then left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, we have one other bone to add. Then I believe our rig is actually complete. Held them in the mouse button to rotate, taking the hand to pan. What we want to do is let's select this bottom bone here. Hold shift, select the bottom bone here. And then with those two bones selected, we're going to hold shift, press S to bring up our snap to menu. We're then going to choose cursor to selected. What happens is because we have two separate objects, the 3D cursor goes directly in the center. That's what we want. I'm going to left click to deselect. The reason why we want that is because where the 3D cursor is at in Blender is where objects tend to come into Blender at. So what we're going to do is hold shift. We're going to press A. That brought in this bone. The 3D cursor is here. The tail is here. We're going to snap the tail to the 3D cursor just so we can push it straight out. So we're going to hold shift, press S. Then we're going to select, this brought up our snap to menu. We're going to select selection to cursor, keep offset. It looks like the bone disappeared. It didn't. We just need to push this out like that. We'll then left click to deselect. Okay, the reason why we brought this bone in is this bone is going to allow us to move the entire rig just by grabbing this bone. So we're going to select this bone, go to the lower right, select this bone. We're going to name this main root. And we'll leave it named main root. So we need to parent all of our control, well, we need to parent our control bones to here, so that when we move this, the entire armature moves. Okay, this is fairly easy to set up. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect, hold them in the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to select this bone. I'm holding shift. Now I'm going to select this bone, still holding shift. I'm going to select this bone. I'm going to select this bone last. I'm letting go of shift. I'm now going to hold control, press P. This brings up our make parent menu. I'm then going to select keep offset. Then left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, the reason why we did that is now I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate. Now when we go to the upper left, go to pose mode. When we select just this bone, we can press G. We can see that our entire mech moves. That's what we want. So we're going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do is go to the upper left. We're going to go to edit mode. Make a slight adjustment. When you hold the middle mouse button, look to the side. See how this is almost out of this piece here? I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is hold shift. Select the bones that you see me selecting. My manipulator's in the way, so I'm going to go to the left, upper left, select the select box. I'm going to use the hand to pan down. I'm going to hold shift. I'm selecting all of these bones here because I want to push forward, not a lot. I don't like this being back that far. So I'm going to go to the move tool. I'm going to push forward slightly. So our legs and everything else still should be in line. So we should be good. So I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to roll them in the mouse button to zoom back. When we are dealing with rigging in Blender, we have two types of bones. We have deform bones as well as control bones. The control bones we don't want to have we don't want to have the control bones trying to deform our mesh. So what we want to do is set things up so that Blender knows that we don't want the control bones to try to deform our mesh. So what we want to do is we want to select the different control bones. So we're going to select here, hold shift, select here, select there. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We'll select here, as well as here, as well as here, as well as here. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate, holding shift again. On the mouse wheel to zoom back, holding the mouse button to rotate, holding shift again. Holding shift because shift allows you to select more than one object at a time in Blender. Okay, I'm holding them in the mouse button to take a look. Okay, we have these bones here as well, so we'll hold shift, select there, holding shift still, selecting there. We'll hold shift, we'll select here as well as here. These aren't control bones, however they won't be, we don't want them to form anything. So with all of those bones selected, we'll hold shift, press W, and then we have this toggle bones options that pops up. Then we're going to select deform. So with that selected, all of these bones should no longer be set to deform anything in Blender. Okay, if we look to the right, roll our mouse. See this deform right here, how this doesn't have a check mark there? So when I select on this bone, this doesn't have a deform there. However, when I select the thigh bone, we can see there is a deform check mark. We can also add bones that we also don't, other bones that we don't want to deform. For instance, these bones right here, I'm going to go to my manipulator. My manipulator's in the way, so I'm going to select here to move that out of the way. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to select these two bones on, both sides of the mech. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. I'm going to hold shift, press W. This brings up our toggle bone options, and then I'm going to select deform. and then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, now with all the other work done, we're ready to connect the pieces of mesh to the armature. We're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. There's three pieces of mesh. There's this gun, the main body, as well as the other gun. The reason why we have the guns being separate is so you could easily, the idea is so you could easily change them out with other pieces that can connect onto the mesh. So I'm going to hold shift, select the first object, select the main body, then select the last object. I'm actually going to left click to deselect so I can see the armature was selected. So I'm going to first left click. Now I'm holding shift. Now I'm selecting the body. Now I'm selecting the other piece of the mesh, the last piece of the mesh. Now lastly, I am, while still holding shift, selecting the armature. So now I'm letting go of shift. So with the object selected in that order, I'm going to hold control, press P. This brings up our set parent to menu. What we want to select, since we're dealing with hard surface objects, is armature with empty groups. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. So now what we want to do is set up each bone to be parented. So we made a bunch of groups. We're going to use those groups to parent our bones. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the armature first, hold shift, and then select the mesh second. So with things done in that order, we're going to go to the upper left. Then we're going to go to weight paint mode. Currently, the way things look, blue basically means no weight is applied. However, that blue still kind of makes me think of like as if something was applied. So what I'm going to do is go to our overlays menu, go to where we see 0 weights. So where there's none, I'm going to select this to active. So basically, this black lets us know that there's absolutely no weights applied to what you see on the mesh right now. Okay, what we want to do now is we want to look to the lower right, select the, looks like a green triangle. These are our different weights. Our different vertex groups were made when we selected empty groups. So these names here are the bones that are in the rig. So currently this is set for toe.control.r. The way we want to change the bone, so the first thing we're going to select is this torso bone. So we're going to hold shift first, this is very important, and then left click. So when I did that, I let go of shift. Now you can see that this mid-torso bone, torso bone is selected, and that's what we want. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to the upper left. We're going to go right to edit mode. So here in edit mode, we're going to go to, we have our vertex, edge, as well as face select. We're going to go to vertex select. We're going to go to the upper right. We're going to turn on X-ray. We're going to press C for paint select, and this main body right here is what we want. So we want to be, I'm going to double click on nothingness to deselect. We want to select this area here, all of this. We don't want the guns. We don't want this. Actually, yeah, we do want this middle piece. So we want all of this. So what we're going to do is press C for paint select. So we just need to select. We want those back pieces too. Pieces of what you see here. As long as we have a little piece, we should be able to right click out of paint select, then hold control, then press L to select all of those pieces. I'm going to press C for paint select to deselect there. So it looks like we have what we need. So see this weight that says 1? Think of this 1 as being 100% weight or 100% movement with the bone that we currently have selected. So the mid-torso bone is the one highlighted. If and when we select assign, this weight of 100 will be selected. This mesh that you see will be assigned to this mid-torso. So we're going to select assign. Okay, I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to select the armature. I'm going to go to pose mode. So here in pose mode, I'm going to press, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate, press R twice, so we can see that entire piece of the mesh is moving, and that is what we want. So I'm going to right click to deselect. Yeah, that's what we want. Okay, so I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left and go back to object mode. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to select the armature, hold shift, select the mesh. Then I'm going to go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. So we can see there's the weight right there. So now I'm going to hold shift, left click on this bone. I'm then going to go to edit mode. I'm going to press C for paint select. I can make my brush bigger or smaller. And I want to select this piece right here. So I'm going to right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold control, press L. That makes me select this entire piece right here. I don't think I want that piece. I just want this piece. So let's see, I'm going to press C for paint select. Select there, right click, hold control, press L. Excellent. So now we have this shoulder. So I'll select assign. So then I'll left click to deselect. So I'm going to go to back to object mode. I'll select the armature, hold shift, then I'll select this mesh right here. I'll then go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. I'm going to hold shift, then left click here. So even though this looks like this is selected, there we go. So now this is selected. So what I'm going to do is go to the upper left, go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to select here, right click. I'm going to hold control, press L to select all of the piece of this. Then I'm going to press H to hide, just to make sure I don't select that. So here what I'm going to do is press C, select here. I'm going to be careful about there. Select here. Press C, select there, right click. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate, or was holding the middle mouse button to rotate, or hold control, press L. So now I have all of this selected. So I'm going to select assign. Then I'll left click to deselect. Okay, what we'll do is we'll go to the upper left. We'll go to object mode. We'll select our armature. We'll go to pose mode. So we'll select, with this bone selected, we'll press R to rotate. So that bone is rotating like we want. Let's see how this bone rotates. That bone is rotating like I want as well. I'm going to right click to deselect. Then left click on nothingness to deselect, or try to deselect everything. Okay, these next couple parts, we're going to go through this, try to go through this fairly quickly. I'll explain as we go, but be prepared. I'm going to speak a little faster since we're going to be pretty much repeating the same thing over and over again. So we go to the upper left, go to object mode, left click on nothingness, select the armature. I'm going to hold shift, left click, go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to hold alt, press H to bring back that geometry that was previously hidden. The geometry is already selected. However, I'll come out, I'll select part of it again just so it's similar to the way I did the other piece of mesh. I'm going to hold control. Whoa. Okay. It's interesting. So let's press C. Select. Right click. Hold control. Press L. There we go. So then I'll select Assign. Then left click to deselect. Go to the upper left. Then go to object mode. I'm going to left click on nothingness to deselect. I'll select the armature. There we go. Go to the upper left. Go to pose mode. So I'll select here. I'll go to the move tool. So now you can kind of see what I was talking about with that reloading motion. So if I want this to go right back to its original position, what I can do is hold Alt, then press G. So that goes right back to its original position. So this is rigged correctly. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, then go to object mode. Then I'll left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Have to do the same thing for the other side. So we'll select the armature. We'll hold shift. We'll select here. Actually, okay. So we'll go to weight paint mode. Okay. So I want that bone, so we go back to object mode. We'll select armature, hold shift, select here, go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. We'll hold shift, select that bone, go to edit mode. We'll zoom in, we'll go to the right to use the hand. We'll press C for paint select. I grab just a few pieces of the mesh, I think. Hold control, press L. Excellent. So there's the shoulder, so we'll select. I got too much. Did I get too much? No, I'm right. So I'll select Assign. So now left click to deselect. So then we'll go to the upper left, go to object mode, left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to zoom back. I'm going to select the armature, hold shift, select the mesh, go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode, hold shift, select here. I'll hold shift to deselect this bone here. Hold shift again. When you look here in this vertex group, you can check to see, if you're on the correct bone. So with that bone selected, we'll go to the upper left. We'll go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, we'll press, roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, C to select some of this here. Right click to get out of paint select, hold control, press L, press H to hide that geometry. Then I'm going to press C to select pieces of the geometry here. When I'm looking here, I'm thinking of like the screws here. Trying to make sure that I'll right click to get out so I can rotate. I right clicked and held the middle mouse button to rotate. And then press C. So we select here. I'll right click to get out of paint select, hold control, press L. So now we have all of that geometry. So then we'll select assign. So then we'll left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left to go to object mode. Then we'll left click to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do is select the armature, hold shift, select the mesh, go to the upper left. I'm going to go to weight paint mode. I'm going to hold shift to select this bone. I don't want this bone being selected at all, so I select that. Again, while holding shift, and I'm still holding shift, I select here. We can tell we're on the right bone by looking to the right. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'll hold Alt, press H to bring back the hidden geometry. I'll left click to deselect, hold the middle mouse button to rotate, press C for paint select, select some of the vertices here. On the edge, I'll right click to deselect, hold control, press L to select that geometry, and then I'll select assign. Then I'll left click on nothingness to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode, and then left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is select the armature, go to the upper left. We're going to go to pose mode. We'll select this bone here, roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. We'll press R twice, which allows us to freely rotate. And we can see that the right gun as well as the left gun, there's a piece that we didn't get. So we're going to left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode. If we have I left clicked off the armature, I click back on. Okay, we're going to hold shift. We're going to select this gun. I let go of shift. We're going to the upper left. We're going to go to weight paint mode. So we're going to hold shift to select that bone. I'm letting go of shift. We'll go to the upper left now. Then we're going to go to edit mode. So here in edit mode, what we can do is I'll select this one vertex. I'll hold control, press L. Then I'll press H to hide. I'll hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Yeah, actually, I think it's the piece that we want. Okay. I'm going to hold Alt, press H. I'm going to turn, okay, X-rays on. I'm going to press C for paint select. So we'll make sure we get all of this here. I'll right click to get out of paint select, hold control, press L. Well, this is an issue. Should have did this, hid this. Select there. We'll hold control, press L, press H to hide that. Now we'll press C. Select all of this. Not all of it, decent amount of it. We'll hold control, press L. It appears like we have everything. We can see that, I'm rolling the mouse wheel to zoom back. We can see that our proper arm is selected, so we'll select assign. So I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to turn off X-ray. I'm going to hold Alt, press H to bring back the hidden geometry. Left click to deselect. Then I'll go to the upper left and go to object mode. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, we're going to select the armature, hold shift, select this gun, I let go of shift. Now we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to weight paint mode. We're going to hold shift, select that bone. I'm letting go of shift. Now we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to hold Alt, press A to make sure I have nothing selected. I'm going to press C to select here, right click, hold Control, press L, press H to hide that geometry. Then I'm going to press C. Actually, I'm going to go to X-ray, press C, select all of this here. Right click to get out of paint select. I'm going to hold Control, press L. So now we can see from the right, we have the right arm. We're going to select Assign. So we're going to left click on nothingness to deselect, go to the upper left, then go back to object mode. Then I'm going to left click to deselect. And now we'll test it out. So we'll select our armature. We'll go to the upper left, go to pose mode. We'll select this torso bone. We'll press R twice so we can see that we're connected now. So we'll right click to come out of there. I'll left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode. I'll left click to deselect, holding the middle mouse button to take a look. Okay, we're going to select the armature. We're going to hold shift. We're going to select the main body. Go to the upper left. Go to weight paint. I'm going to hold shift, select this bone here. Let go of shift. Go to the upper left. Go to edit mode. You still have the X-ray on, which is good. I'm going to press C for paint select. I rolled the mouse to shrink my paint area of influence. I'm going to right click. I'm going to hold Control, press L. So now with that selected, I'm going to select Assign. I'll left click to deselect. I'll leave that on. I'll go to the upper left and go to object mode. Left click to deselect. Okay, so now we're going to go to the armature, go to the upper left, go to pose mode. So with this bone selected, we'll press R to rotate on the Y axis. So this looks good. However, I do want this attached here as well. So we're going to left click, go to the upper left, go to object mode. We're going to hold shift, left click on the main body, go to the upper left, go to weight paint. We're still selected on that bone. We can see from over here. We can also see the area that I select. I'll hold shift just to highlight it so it's the same as before. We're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to zoom in. Press C. I'm shrinking my mouse because I don't want to select the leg area. I just want, but you know, it doesn't matter if we select this area here. Though I don't. I'm holding the middle mouse button to deselect. I don't want this Maybe I do. Nah, I don't think I want that area. Press C. Holding the middle mouse button to get rid of that. Selecting over here. C, I'm holding the middle mouse button to get rid of that. Just select in here. I'll right click to deselect. I'm going to hold Control, then press L. Excellent. That's what I wanted. So I'll select Assign. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, zoom back, select the armature, go to the upper left, go to Pose Mode. Then I'll press R to rotate on the Y axis. I think that'll work. Okay, I'm gonna left click to deselect. We're gonna go to the upper left, go to Object Mode. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm gonna select the armature. Oops. Hold Shift. Hold Shift. There we go. Go to Weight Paint Mode. I'll hold Shift here. Let go of Shift. Go to the upper left. Go to Edit Mode. So for this, probably the easiest way to do this is to press C for paint select. Select here. Select here, all of this right here as much as I can grab. Right click, hold Control, press L, press H to hide that. Probably press C, select that, hold Control, press L, press H to hide that. Press C, select this, right click, get out of paint, select, hold Control, press L, press H to hide that, press C. So now we should be able to select stuff here. I don't need to select all of it because when we can press and hold Control, then L, we can select the geometry that's connected to the other geometry that we selected. So now we're going to select Assign. So I'm going to left click to deselect, hold Alt, press H to bring back the other geometry. I'll left click to deselect. I'll go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to select the armature, go to the upper left, go to Pose Mode, roll the mouse to zoom back, select the handle here, going to the mouse towards the right, there we go, press G. It looks good, so we have the leg is moving like it should. Good. So I'll left click to deselect. I'll go to the upper left, then go to Object Mode. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to hold Shift, select the mesh, go to the upper left, go to Weight Paint Mode, hold Shift, select here. We can see we have the correct bone. We'll go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We'll press C for paint select. Select around here. Here. We'll hold control, press L, press H to hide that. We'll press C for paint select this. Select that, right click, hold control, press L, press H to hide that. So basically, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking how this would look as this is animated if I leave this connected to this. So basically in my mind right now, I'm like imagining it's walking, and I'm like, if this piece is moving with this, independently of the rest of the leg, how would that look? Probably is not the right way to go. So I'm going to press C to paint select that, right click, hold control, press L, press H to hide that. C for paint select, right click, hold control, then press L, press H to hide that. So now with all that done, I'm going to press C for paint select. Select this piece right here, right click, hold control, press L, go to the lower right of the screen, then select assign. I'll left click, hold Alt, press H to bring back the previously hidden geometry, left click to deselect. Now I'll go to the upper left, go to object mode, left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select the armature, we're going to hold shift, we're going to select the mesh, we're going to go to the upper left, we're going to go to weight paint mode. We want to make sure that we hold shift, select this bone. We don't want this, I'm going to select this bone, select it again. It's still selected. Be very careful that you have the right bone selected. I'm letting go of shift. I can see that this is shin down dot L. It's very important that you have this bone selected. When you're selecting your bones, make sure that you check your bones to make sure you have the right one selected without any other bones that you don't want connected. So with this done, we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, what we want to do is we're going to press C for paint select. We're going to select this here, right click. We're going to press C to select this here, right click, roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. We're going to press C here to select here. We'll press right click. We're going to hold control, press L. We'll press H to hide all of that. That's excellent because we want to select all of this. We don't want not all of this, sorry. We don't want this, nor do we want that. Right click. So I'm going to hold control, press L, press H to hide all of that. Now I'm going to press C for paint select. We want to select all of this. This bottom piece right here is important for when the foot like rotates forward. So we're going to select Assign. We'll left click to deselect. We'll hold Alt. We'll press H to bring back the hidden geometry. We'll left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left. We'll go to Object Mode. Then left click to deselect. Okay, the good news is we're almost through this. Originally, I thought we were going to have to go through this process for the other leg. Once we finish this leg, there's a way where we will have the work, in a sense, done for this leg. I'm going to show you how to do that. So hopefully in a little bit we'll be through this this tutorial and a little more. Okay, be prepared. I'm excited that we're through most of this. I'm going to be speaking fast. So we go through this. It's pretty much going to be the same thing that we have been doing. So prepare yourself because we're going to go through this quick. Are you prepared? All right. So we're going to select the armature, hold shift. We select the mesh, go to the upper left. We go to weight paint mode. This mesh, this bone is currently selected. We're going to zoom in by rolling the mouse. Take the hand and pan up to the upper right. Hold shift. We want the toe control.L. We have that bone. I don't want this selected. I'm going to left click. It's selected again. Now I'm going to select it again. It's still selected. I'm going to select again. I'm holding shift the whole time, right? When I select this, we're going to not have this bone select. Even though it's not highlighted, it's still selected, right? So now I select here. We have the wrong bone. This is ft.L. I can tell because I'm looking at it. So we'll left click. Now we have the correct bone. I'm letting go of shift. I'm going to go to the upper left. Go to edit mode. I'm going to press C for paint select. Painting all of the areas or most of the areas that I don't want that will make it harder for me to select. I'm going to right click. Hold control. Press L. Press H to hide that geometry. Press C. I'm going to select there. Right click. Hold control, press L, press H to hide the geometry. I'm going to press C to select this geometry. I'm going to right click to get out of paint select, hold control, press L. The toe.control.L is selected, so I'm going to select Assign, left click. I'm going to hold Alt, press H to bring back the previously hidden geometry, left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, and then left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to select the armature. Hold shift, select the mesh. Go to the upper left. Go to weight paint mode. Hold them in the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold... Actually, while I'm holding shift, I'm going to left click here to deselect. Then I'm still holding shift. I'm left clicking here. So now I have the bone that I want. I let go of shift. I'm going to go to the upper left. Go to edit mode. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm pressing C to paint select the pieces that could get in the way. Press C for paint select again. I came out of paint select to rotate the view. I'm out of paint select again by right clicking. I'm going to hold control, press L, press H to hide all of that geometry. I'm going to press C, select this geometry here, right click. Hold control, press L, select Assign, left click, hold Alt, press H to bring back the previously hidden geometry, left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, and then I'm going to left click to deselect. We should hopefully be finished with this leg. So we're going to select the armature, go to the upper left. We're going to go to pose mode. Here in pose mode, we want to grab the bottom bone here, press G. It looks good. We're going to select, we can see the bones here to ankle roll. We're going to press R to rotate on the X axis. That looks good. We'll select this bone. We'll press S to scale. Excellent. We'll right click to deselect, left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left, go to object mode, and then we'll left click to deselect. Okay, I told you I was going to show you a way where we weren't going to have to go through what we went through on this leg for this leg. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the mirror modifier. Now this doesn't have a mirror modifier on here. When we look at this mech, it's symmetrical. Because it's symmetrical, we can split this in half and then put a mirror modifier on it. Blender will know to set up the bone so that this leg controls this part of the mesh. This leg would control that part of the mesh. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to go to front view. Here in front view, I rolled the mouse. I'm going to select the hand. I'm going to select the mesh. I'm going to go to the upper left. I'm going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, we still have this X-ray turned on. Because we have the X-ray turned on, we can select from the front, through the front as well as the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to box select. We're going to press B for box select. We're going to select all of this part of the mesh. So we're going slightly past the halfway point. So we have all of this part of the mesh selected, right? So what we're going to do is press X to bring up our delete menu and then choose faces to delete. So with that done, we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to object mode. With this part of the mesh still here, we're going to go to the wrench. We're going to, the wrench, is our modifier menu. We're going to select the arrow. We're going to put a mirror modifier on. So with this mirror modifier on, the mirror modifier came in. It's underneath the armature. We need to select the arrow to move it above the armature modifier. So now with this done, I don't particularly want the mirror modifier on here. So I'm going to select apply. So with all that done, this leg here should be set up just like this leg. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate. I'm going to select the armature. Go to pose mode. So we'll select here. We'll press G. We can see that this leg moves. We select here. We can see that this leg moves as well, which is excellent. I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, then I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. This is not currently attached, so what we're going to do is select the mesh, hold shift, select here, go to the upper left. We'll go to weight paint mode, hold shift, left click, let go of shift. We'll go to the upper left. We'll go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, we'll press C for paint select. Select part of that. Right click, hold control, press L. You still need more. Select here, right click, hold control, press L. We'll go to the green triangle. The correct bone is the shin underscore down dot L. We'll select assign. We'll left click to deselect. Then we'll go to the upper left, go to object mode, then left click to deselect. Okay, we need to do the same thing for the other side. So we'll select the armature, hold shift, select the mesh, go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. We'll hold shift, left click. We have shift underscore down dot R. We'll go to the upper left. We'll go to edit mode. We'll press C for paint select. Select here. Right click. Hold control. Press L. Select assign. Left click to deselect. Go to the upper left. Go to object mode. Left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate. The ideal thing to do would have been to before we did the mirror, so we would have only had to do one side. However, it wasn't that difficult to do. What we're going to do now is we're going to set up a few shape keys to make this mech easier to, when I say shape keys, sorry, I mean custom shapes, not shape keys we're doing. Not shape keys, custom shapes. Actually, before we do that, what we're going to do is make sure that this entire piece is set up correctly. So to do that, we're going to select our armature. We're going to go to pose mode. So we're going to select here, press G. So when we do that, we can see that this is not correct. So we'll select here. We'll press G. Same thing on the other side. So I'm going to show you how to fix this. So this piece right here is not set up. So what we can do is we'll left click to deselect, go to object mode. We'll select the mesh. We'll go to our modifiers. We'll make sure we have these buttons here selected. We'll select our armature. We'll hold shift just like we normally would do. We'll go to the upper left. We'll go to weight paint mode. This is dealing with this bone right here. So we'll hold shift. Okay, I see. So I'll go out here, selected the wrong thing. I'll select the armature, hold shift, select the main body. Now we'll go to weight paint mode. I'll hold shift, select here. Okay, it's this bone, so we'll select here. So with this selected, go to object mode. I'm going to make sure I have these buttons here selected. I want this piece stretched out so I can clearly see that. So I'm going to select the armature again, hold shift, select the main body. Then I'm going to go to the upper left, go to weight paint mode. I have the correct bone selected. So now I'm going to go to the upper left. I'm going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to go to vertex select. I'm going to press C to paint select all of this right here. Right click to get out of paint select, hold control, press L. So now I'm going to go to the green triangle. You can see we have the correct bone. I'm going to select assign. So now that is fixed. I'm going to go to the upper left. I'm going to go to object mode. Select armature. Select the main mesh. Go to weight paint mode. I'm going to hold shift, select this bone. I'll take the hand to pan over. I'll hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, I'm going to press C for paint select, select this geometry right here, right click, hold control, press L. So we can see we have that geometry that's not quite right. We have the correct bone selected, then we select assign. So now with that, we can see that our geometry is correct. So we'll go back to object mode. We'll select our armature, go to pose mode. I'll zoom back. I'm going to press A, hold Alt, still holding Alt, press G. So now when I select here, I'll press G. So now we can see that that is correct. So I'll right click to deselect, left click on nothingness to deselect. I'll go to the upper left, go to object mode, then left click on nothingness to deselect. I'll hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Okay, when we set up these custom shapes, I'm going to here, I'm just selecting these arrows. I'm going to right click, select new collection. It's collection 4. We'll double click here. We're going to name this custom shapes and then press enter to lock that in. Okay, these custom shapes are going to be made out of simple mesh. So what a custom shape is, it is when we want to flex the foot as well as move the ankle. See how, particularly the ankle bone, see how small it is? So to animate this, you have to grab that very small bone. To rotate it is difficult. With the custom shape, instead of having this small bone, we can have a big shape that's very easy for us to select. So custom shapes are nice visually. They're also actually nice to make things easier to animate. You can get very elaborate in making custom shapes. We're going to keep it fairly basic here. What we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a base bone. So we're going to hold Shift, press A, go to Mesh. We're going to bring in a mesh circle. We're going to go to Edit Mode, zoom in. I'm going to go to Vertex Select. I'm going to go to the hand. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, press S to scale that up, left click to deselect. Then we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. So we can use this a bunch of times. This tends to be very useful, these mesh circles. So I'm going to left click deselect, zoom back. Holding the middle mouse button, taking a look at what we have. Okay, I'm going to select that shape key. This is going to control the root. We'll hold Shift, press D, right click. This will control the waist. Hold Shift, press D, right click. This will control the torso. We'll hold Shift, press D, right click. This will be the right ankle control. Hold Shift, press D, right click. This will be the left ankle control. Okay, so we're going to zoom in. We'll select the hand. We'll select here. We can see the name here, which is good. So we're going to name this CS for custom shape, root, control, or CTRL for control. We'll press enter. We'll select here. We'll name this CS waist control. We'll select here, name this CS torso control. Press enter to lock that in. Select there. We'll name this CS ankle control. Right. We'll select. Actually, we'll select this. Hold Control, press C to copy that. We'll select here. Select here, Control V. We'll name this left and press Enter to lock that in. Okay, I've made custom shapes in the past. I've done tutorials on them. For learning how to do this in Blender 2.8, I went to a YouTube channel called the Novice Art YouTube channel. The guy in there does Blender tutorials. He does a good job on most of the tutorials. He does a particularly excellent job when it comes to rigging tutorials. So if you want to learn more about making custom shapes, I recommend you go to the Novice Art YouTube channel to check out his videos. Okay, let's apply here. So when I say apply, right, I have this shape selected, right? When you look when you look here, see this location here, this rotation, this scale. When these aren't typically when I apply this, right? Blender will have this as being 0, 0, 0. You know, this is being 0, 0, 0. This is being 1, 1, 1. When you don't have your location, your rotation, your scale applied in object mode, tends to cause issues in the future. So with this selected, see how these numbers are different? Watch this. Control A, our apply menu pops up. I select location, and now this is 0, 0, 0. So this is good to do to keep you from having issues in the future. I'll select here, same thing. Control, press A, select location, select here. Control, press A, select location, select here. Control A, select location. I select here. Control A, select location. If you're wondering why these numbers got changed, it's because when you typically when you make a shape, when you move the shape, these numbers will be changed, and then to work with that, you would press Control A, apply the location. Okay, these shape keys are ready to go except for these ones, so I'll select here. Go to edit mode. I want to select half of this geometry. We're in edit mode. We can see this. This isn't in the same edit, so we can ignore this even though we can see it. I'm going to go to face select, press C, select half of this. That selected, I'll press X to bring up the delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'll go back to object mode, select this, go to edit mode. I'll press C, select half of this. Right click, then press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. I'll go back to the upper left, go back to object mode. Okay, I'm going to hold down the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to select the armature, go to the upper left. We want to go to pose mode. We want to select on the bone towards the lower right of the screen. We're going to go down to where we see viewport display. We'll left click to open this up. Okay, what we want to do now is we want to select the bone. So once we have the bone selected, what we want to do is look to where we see this custom object. We can select the eyedropper and then actually select the object. Then what we can do is select wireframe. Okay. I'm like, where is it at? It's all the way down there, which is kind of interesting. So what we can do is, I'm not sure why it's all the way down there. I guess probably because when I applied the this one, I was like, it looked different, but it didn't look like it was moved. Anyway, it's not a big deal. What you want to do is select the shape. And when I say the shape, I mean the shape that we made. It's an actual mesh, right? Then you'll go to the edit mode for that shape, right? So we'll press A to select the shape. So now when we move this, we move the shape in edit mode. Now we can see the shape moving. So by moving in edit mode, you can adjust the shape to be how you want it to be. Same thing with the scale. So I'll press S to increase the scale. You kind of like look to see where, when you push, how the shape moves. So I'm going to make this bigger. So I'll left click to deselect. Then I'll go to object mode. Okay, with this shape selected, I'll press M. And then we'll look to our custom shapes collection. We'll select the box. Okay, so it's in the custom shapes collection. So what we can do is we'll select I to turn that off. Okay, so this one here is going to be the waist. So what we're going to do is we'll select the armature. We'll go to pose mode. We'll select the waist. And then we can see there we go. There's the custom shape. We'll select the eyedropper. Select that shape. Select wireframe. Okay, in this time it's over here. Kind of strange. We'll go to object mode. Select this shape, and then we'll go to edit mode. Somebody said that I think the Lose Wiz art said Bones in Blender is seen as being when the Y is up and down, where the objects are Z is up and down like regular objects, and that's why he thinks that the shapes do like this. It's not that big of a deal. It is, does make you wonder. So I want this shape to be flipped over, so I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis 9, 0. And I'll press enter, then I'll press R to rotate on the X axis 9, 0. What? R to rotate on there. Is it Y? There we go. Still not what I want. R to rotate on X axis 9, 0. There we go. So you kind of, R to rotate on the Y axis, X axis, Z axis. There we go. Kind of like look. To move this into place. It's definitely interesting. Not that difficult though. So now we have it basically in place. Now we need to see which side to side. So now we'll press S to scale this up. We'll left click to deselect. Go to object mode. So then we can go to the right, press the I to hide that. Okay, now we're going to do the torso bone. So we'll select the armature, go to pose mode. We'll select that torso bone. We scroll down. The custom shape is here. It's going to be this. We'll select wireframe. So very similar to before. We'll go to object mode. We'll select here. Go to the upper left. We'll go to edit mode. I'm going to right click. So what I do is I just move to see the basic area. I'll press R to rotate on X axis 9, 0. I'll press R to rotate on the X axis. There we go. I think I want this actually in front. It doesn't look quite right. It like going through. I'm gonna go to object mode. Okay, I'll go back to select this bone. I'll go to pose mode. So this object is there. This object, the white object there, is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to object mode, select that object. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm pretty sure that what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press C for paint select. Right click, press X to bring up the delete menu, choose faces to delete. Then I'll press A, press R to rotate on the Y axis, R to rotate on the Z axis, the X axis, Y axis. So one is this to go forward. There we go. Then I'll press R to rotate on the X axis. R to rotate on the X axis. Or to rotate on the Y. Interesting. It's gonna bother me. I apologize. Y. Or to rotate on the Z. Okay. I'm gonna left click to deselect. Go to back to object mode. We're going to take the hand, zoom in, select the armature, go to pose mode. We want the roll. So this is ankle roll dot R. So we scroll down, we select the eyedropper, select here. We'll select wireframe. We'll go to object mode, select here, go to edit mode, press A to select. There we go. Okay. Let's press R to rotate on the Y axis, 90. R to rotate on the X axis, there we go. Higher. Okay. I'm gonna left click to deselect, go to object mode. So now we're gonna select the mesh, go to the upper left, go to pose. I want this ankle dot roll dot L. Go here, we scroll down, select here, we select that object, select wireframe. We'll go to come out of there. I'll go to object mode. I'll select here. I'll go to edit mode. Press A. I think it's auto rotate on the y-axis 90. Then press enter. I'll move this forward. I think it's auto rotate on the x-axis. Okay. Left click to deselect. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, and left click to deselect. Okay, we're going to make a few more shape keys. We're going to hold shift, press A, go to mesh, select cube. I'm going to go to edit mode. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y axis like this. That's the scale on the Y axis. I'm going to press S to scale on the X axis like that. I'm going to hold shift, press D, right click. Bring that over there. Hold shift, press A. Don't want that. Hold shift, press A, mesh, cube. Bring this up. By positioning the cube actually where it's like inside of the mesh, we still have to, most likely have to adjust it. However, it lets me place the cube without having to rotate around so much in 3D. So I'll hold shift, select that, hold shift, press D, right click. We'll bring this over to the other side. We'll select here. Oops. Hold shift. Shift D, right click. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to take the hand to pan, hold the middle mouse button, rotate. I'm going to select the armature. Go to the upper left, go to pose mode. I'm going to select this bottom foot bone. Select the green bone towards the right. Scroll down. Select the custom object. I'll select here. I'm going to select the other bone. Custom object. I'll select here. I'll select here. Select wireframe. Select there. Select wireframe. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left. I'm going to go to object mode. Select that object. Go to edit mode. I'm going to hold control. Okay, push forward. I'm going to press S.8, left click. Okay, that's not enough, so I'll just scale down. Press S to scale. I'll left click to deselect. I'll go to left, go to object mode. Select the eye. To hide that object, I'll select here, go to edit mode. I'll press S to scale down, push this forward to go back. Make it bigger. Up some. Left click to deselect. Object mode. Select there. Select this one and bring it back. Select this one. I'm selecting this one again because it shouldn't be going into the ground. Okay. I'll hide that one. I'll go to the upper left. I'll go to object mode. Okay, I'll select the armature. Go to the upper left. Go to pose mode. I'll select here. Scroll down. Go to custom object. Select here. Look at that. It's like very close to where it should be. That's interesting. I'll go to the object mode, select this. Okay. So I'll select the armature, go to the upper left, go to pose mode, select here, that bone. Scroll down, select the custom object, select wireframe. Go to the upper left, go to object mode. I'll select that object and I'll hide that. Okay, we're going to select the armature, go to the upper left, go to pose mode. Select this bone, go to the green bone to the right, scroll down, select the object, select wireframe. We'll select this bone, select the eyedropper, select the object, select wireframe. We'll select this bone, select the object, select wireframe. We'll select this bone, select the eyedropper, select the object, select wireframe. I'll left click to deselect. I'll go to the upper left, go to object mode. I'll select here, go to edit mode, press S to scale this down like that. I'll left click, go to the upper left, go to object mode, select this object, go to edit mode. I'll press S to scale this down. Left click on nothingness to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode. Then with this custom shapes, we'll select this. We'll bring these objects back, but then we'll select this eye to hide all of the objects. We'll left click to try to select, to make sure we have nothing selected. Okay, there's two more custom shapes that we're going to want to bring in. I'm going to hold Shift, press A. We're going to select a cube. We'll move this cube over. Into position like that. We'll hold Shift, press D, right click. We'll make the other another cube go here. We'll left click deselect, select the armature, go to the upper left, go to pose mode. Here in pose mode, we'll select this bone. I'll zoom in so you can see what's going on. We'll select the green bone to the lower right. We'll scroll down. We'll select the eyedropper, select our shape, select wireframe. We'll left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left, go to object mode. We'll select our object. We'll go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, we're going to press S.5 and then press enter to lock that in. So we scaled this to 50% of what it was. So move that up some. Move it forward some. We'll left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left, go to object mode. We'll select our armature. We'll go to the upper left. We'll go to pose mode. We'll select this bone. Scroll down. Select the eyedropper. We'll select this shape. We'll select wireframe. We'll left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode. We'll select that shape. Go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We'll press S to scale, 0.5, then press enter. So we scaled that to 50% of what it was. Raise this up. Move forward slightly more. We'll left click to deselect. We'll go to the upper left. We'll select the shape. We'll hide. I just unhid the other shapes. Didn't need to do it. I saw that this was hidden, so I unhid it. So now I'm hiding them, which I really don't have to do because I can just hide all of the custom shapes. Okay, so now we have these custom shapes that we'll find useful in the future. Okay, there's going to be something we're going to want to fix. See the space right here? That's not good. So what we're going to do is select our mesh, go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We're going to turn off X-ray, zoom in, take the mouse to pan. We'll press C for paint select. Right click. C for paint select. Select the hand. C for paint select. Right click. So the thing that sometimes is slightly difficult is making sure you get all of the faces. So what we're going to do is hold Control, press L, think you have the faces. I'm going to hover here, press L. I can see there. See that little line? That's an area that's missed. Same here. We'll hold Control, press L. Shift, Control L, hold Shift. I think that's all. We'll hold Control, press L again. Okay, so with that selected, I'll zoom back. We're gonna hold Shift, press D, right click. Then what we're gonna do is take these duplicates, push them down, move them back some. We're using this to fill in the space, and the reason why we're doing this is because this geometry is set up to move with this bone. This should we shouldn't have to go into weight paint this again. So we're going to put this slightly lower so that when this folds down, there's not that space. So I'm going to zoom back, left click to deselect. Then we go to the upper left, go to object mode. I'm going to select the armature, zoom in, go to the upper left, go to pose mode. We'll select it here. Pay attention to like the space. We'll press S to scale. Okay. So I rolled the mouse wheel to zoom in too far by accident. Press A. I pressed A to select everything. I'll hold Alt, press S, left click to deselect, hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'll go up to the upper left, go to object mode, zoom back, left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select our armature. We're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to pose mode. We're going to select the bones that we want. I'm going to hold Shift. We're going to press, I let go of Shift. We're going to press H to hide them. When I say the bones that we want, these are the bones that we're going to be using to control the rig. We'll press H to hide them. These pull targets are bones that we want. These shoulder joints are bones that we want. So we'll press H to hide them. So all of these other bones we actually don't need. So what we're going to do is look towards the lower right to this running man guy. This is layers. This is set up specifically for bones. This is where our bones are currently at. What we're going to do now is we're going to press A to select all of our bones, and we're going to press the M key. So now we're going to, when I left click here, we're going to move all of the currently selected. We want this definitely. So let me hide that. I'm going to press A again. Okay, so I'm going to press M. When I left click, we're going to move all of the bones that are currently selected to here. So now they're all moved to there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, press H. So now these are the bones that we use to actually control our rig. So I'll left click to deselect. Okay, we'll take a quick look. Our mech is ready to be used. The rig is done. It is set up now for animation. Since you've taken the time to make this rig up, realize that you can disconnect this rig to move this to other mechs that you might use. Yeah, just something that I want you to be aware of that you can do. Congratulations, you've reached the end of the tutorial. Okay guys, for all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel, reshare them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.